So, not as loud as it could be, but when you're out and about, any of you are going on safaris, I hope you run into a lion roaring, preferably when he's looking away from you. That's the thing. Okay, now, let me make sure I have the right information. Yeah, I do. Okay, so let's now move to the leopards. Leopards are amongst the most elusive and adaptable of the big five. They thrive in habitats ranging from arid savannas and dense forests to rocky mountains. So here's a question for you then. Which habitat can leopards not adapt to? Is it green rocky mountains? Is it yellow dense forest? Or is it red open deserts?
Red.
Yeah, it's red open desert. I kind of gave you the answer, but I wanted to emphasize it using this question because even though leopards are very highly adaptable hunters, they thrive in diverse ecosystems where prey and cover are abundant. But they do struggle to survive in the harsh conditions of open deserts, which lack these vital resources, the vital resources being prey and cover. So they're secretive nature, they're actually very secretive animals. They're very adept at navigating human-altered landscapes, relying on stealth and patience to secure their prey. The one place they can't do it is an open desert. Now, true or false, leopards hunt in packs to increase their success rate. False. They are solo creatures. They are solitary hunters. They rely on stealth and strength and camouflage rather than the numbers that lions depend on. So they're actually quite different in the way they hunt from lions. Their independence, for them, is actually a vital survival strategy because it reduces competition for food. They're exceptional when it comes to ambush predation, and they silently stalk their prey and strike with precision. Their incredible strength allows them to drag prey that is several times their weight into trees, protecting it from scavengers like hyenas. And so this arboreal behavior, the ability of leopards to go up into trees, not only safeguards their meal, but also provides them with a safe space to rest and eat undisturbed. Now, despite their adaptability, leopards also face significant threats, including, the biggest one is poaching for their striking spotted coats, which are highly valued in illegal markets. So they are actually being killed for their fur. And they also, that's the main reason, and then there's a secondary reason, they also frequently prey on livestock, which means that the human-animal conflict occurs. And that often results in retaliatory killings, right? If you've got a farmer who's got their livelihood tied up in livestock, and a leopard shows up, a group of farmers will go and hunt the leopard down because they don't want to lose their livestock. So the conservation efforts are obviously focused on reducing poaching, but they're also focused on reducing human-wildlife tensions. And how do they do that? They're trying to promote coexistence strategies between humans and wildlife. And again, I've got a little bit later, I'm going to share with you what some of those are, which are actually quite successful when you think about it. Okay, a little bit of trivia. Did you know that leopards can leap an astonishing 10 meters in a single bound? That's a lot, which really highlights their incredible strength and agility. Okay, now the third of the big five is the rhinoceros. Now the rhinoceros can weigh up to 2,500 kilograms, which is 5,500 pounds. Which is really, really big and really, really heavy. But here's the really interesting piece about this. They can charge at speeds up to 50 kilometers per hour, which is 30 kilometers per hour, 30 miles per hour, I'm sorry. So even though they're really big, you think they might not move very fast, but they can move fast if they want to. And you do not want to be in the way of one of them if they're mad or angry at something. So South Africa is home to two rhino species, very easily called the black rhino and the white rhino. And the one that you see on the screen right here is actually the black rhino, okay? And you might say, well, do they really look black and white? And the answer is no. So how do you tell them apart? Well, let's talk a little bit about, well, let me ask you, what distinguishes black rhinos from white rhinos? You notice color isn't one of the options. Is it green size? Is it yellow lip shape? Or is it red habitat preference? Yeah, you guys know your animals. I'm impressed. It is absolutely lip shaped. They have very distinct adaptations. So black rhinos, their lips are adapted, and let me show you a photograph. So the black rhino is on the left. The black rhino has a hooked lip. You see how it's a little bit circular? And you see how the white rhino has one that's more square and flat? It's because of ecological reasons. So the black rhinos are specialized browsers. They feed on bushes and shrubs, so they need those hooked lips. The white rhinos have broad, flat lips that are ideal for grazing on grass. So one is grazing on bushes and plants, and the other one shrubs, and the other one is on grass, and that's the reason they have that difference in their lips. Now, this is primarily the only way you can tell the difference between a white rhino and a black rhino. I'm thinking you better have a really good zoom lens because you want to be real close to them. Right now, I do have another photograph here that shows the difference in the lips more clearly. Now, just notice in this one, it's flipped. The black rhino is on the right and the white rhino is on the left. So notice the white rhino's got the square lip right here. It's also got a longer forehead, but that's not as easy to see, believe it or not, as the lips are. This one has the pointed lip and it has a shorter forehead. Again, for either of those, you either have to have a really good zoom lens or some really good field glasses, or you have to be close, which you probably want to think about. You want to make sure that you've got an avenue of retreat, as they say. Okay, now, interesting bit of trivia. The name white rhino, you know, we think black rhino and white rhino, why do they call them that if they're different colors? Well, it actually never had to, if they're the same color, it actually never had to do with color. The name white rhino is actually a mistranslation of the Afrikaans word white. White means wide, which refers to the animal's broad mouth. So that's actually where white rhino came from. It came from the Afrikaans word. Okay, now socially, white rhinos are more gregarious. They tend to be in smaller groups. Black rhinos are often solitary and more aggressive. So that's another way to tell, but it's not always correct. But these behaviors and feeding systems habits, actually what they do is they highlight their roles in maintaining ecosystems. The white rhinos with those flat lips support grassland health, while the black rhinos help shade shrub landscapes by pruning vegetation. So they're actually, when they eat, they prune vegetation and they allow more vegetation to grow. So they're very critical to their ecosystems. All right, again, despite their ecological importance, rhinos face an essential threat, and their biggest threat is, very sadly, poaching. It's driven by demand for their horns in traditional medicine in some parts of the world and as status symbols in lots of parts of the world. The traditional medicine is certainly in Asia, and the actual status symbol is Western Europe and North America. Okay, so true or false, rhino bone horns are made of bone. False, yeah. Which is, I mean, it's made of keratin, which is the same protein that is found in human hair and nails, yet the myths about their medicinal properties persist, which has quite honestly fueled what I would call a devastated poaching crisis. Poaching has driven rhino populations to alarming lows. Now, full disclosure, I'm about to show you one photo that can be distressing, and I'm going to show you another photo later on that's distressing. But I think it's important for us to see these to realize how big this threat is. So, poaching has driven rhino populations to alarming lows. At the start of the 20th century, there were 500,000 rhinos, but by 2022, fewer than 27,000 remain. And the brutality of the poaching is what you will see in this picture. It's particularly harrowing. I mean, in the worst cases, they hack off not just the horn, but the front part of the rhino's face, and then they leave the rhino alive to suffer an immense pain, and it's cruel. I mean, it's bad enough that they're doing it, but the cruelty really, for me, underscores the urgent need for stronger conservation measures to protect these animals. And their biggest threat is poaching. So it's not all bad news. If you've been in any of my presentations, you know that I will share bad news, but then I think it's really important to focus on some of the good that's happening as well. And South Africa is leading the way. It has become a global leader in rhino conservation. They have anti-poaching units that employ high-tech tools such as drones and thermal imaging. And then they also have rhino sanctuaries where they provide safe havens for breeding and rehabilitation. So this is a photograph from a place called the Black Rhino Range Expansion Project. And this is a not-for-profit organization that reintroduces rhino to protected areas. And this This is the orphan sanctuary where baby rhinos whose mothers are killed are brought here, and the hope is to reintroduce them to the wild. Not to keep them in the sanctuary for the rest of their lives, but to actually reintroduce them to the wild. So South Africa is actually leading the way when it comes to trying to protect the rhinoceros. Now, good news department. Which rhino species experienced a significant population rebound? Is it the black rhino, green, yellow, the Javan rhino, or red, the white rhino?
Red.
It is the white rhino. Yeah, it's the green. Sorry. Oh, you said red. I'm so sorry, everyone. I got red, white, yellow, green, black. I got confused. I wanted to say, yes, red, white rhino. Absolutely. It did experience a significant population rebound. It is a remarkable conservation story. Once on the brink of extinction, it has now rebounded to approximately 18,000 individuals due to sustained, proactive environmental stewardship, particularly in the last 30 years or so. Yeah. So it really underscores, again, dedicated conservation initiatives can make a difference. Do they happen overnight? No. But over the period of about 29 to 30 years, they have made a rebound. Okay, let's talk about number 4, the elephant. Here it is. Guardians of the ecosystem. So elephants live in tight-knit matriarchal herds led by the oldest and wisest female. What do you think is the primary role of the matriarch in an elephant herd? Is it to protect calves? Is it yellow to lead the herd? Or is it red to find food? Yellow. It's to lead the herd. Either I have made these questions really easy, or you guys are very, very, very good in your reading on South African wildlife. I'm going with the second one. Yeah? Yeah, let's go with the second. Okay. The matriarch leads the herd using her exceptional memory to find water and navigate safe migration routes, ensuring the group's survival. Now, sometimes I have people say, well, it's protecting calves. That's actually not true, because calves benefit from the protection of not just the matriarch, but all the mothers. They actually have a phrase for it. It's called allo mothers. All the mothers in the herd protect all the calves. So it really reflects the strong social bonds that herds have. Mature males don't stay with the herd. They either leave to live alone once they're mature, or they join bachelor groups. Basically a bunch of guys wandering around in the savannah, I think. Okay, some interesting trivia I discovered when I was studying up on elephants. They can detect water sources up to 12 miles away using low-frequency rumbles and vibrations in the ground. That's pretty cool. What else does that mean? What else, if you're out on safari, that means they're probably able to pick up the sound of the whatever you're riding in coming towards them, and yet they've probably learned in some of the sanctuaries that it's safe and they don't run away, right? Okay, the other thing, and I suspect many of you know this, is that elephants mourn their dead. So they display behaviors such as touching and staying near the remains. And it really underscores the emotional intelligence that they have. They are often referred to as ecosystem engineers, which goes up to this title, Guardians of the Ecosystem, because they transform the habitat they live in a good way. So their feeding habits is to push over trees or to clear vegetation. Well, that creates grasslands, which benefits other species. Here's one. Do you think they also do this? True or false? Elephants play a key role in dispersing seeds, aiding forest regeneration. True, absolutely. They transport seeds over long distances, enabling plant growth and maintaining healthy ecosystems. A lot of times those seeds are ones they eat, and then they move, and then when they defecate, those seeds germinate wherever they fall. So they're actually enabling plant growth in many, many ways. There are certain tree species that depend entirely on elephants for their seeds to germinate. So they are actually playing a very crucial ecological role. Now, again, despite their ecological importance, they face grave threats. And in the case of elephants, it's also poaching and it's human-wildlife conflict. So let's talk about poaching. The illegal ivory trade has decimated elephant populations with tens of thousands killed annually. Now, warning, distressing photo. The one on the left. Yes, I know. So what they do is they bring down an elephant, they hack off the front, and then they, in many cases, leave the animal still alive to die. This one is in rigor mortis. And of course, the illegal ivory trade, it has completely destroyed animals. And the ivory trade is two things: collectors, but also, again, traditional medicine, particularly in some parts of the world, identifies this as having medicinal qualities, and so there's a market for it. So that's on the poaching side. I also said another one of their threats is wildlife-human conflict. So elephants, human settlements are expanding. We know this. We know it's a reality of the world we live in, and we can't stop it. So what happens is, as human settlements expand, elephants often clash with farmers because they damage the crops, and then there's retaliatory killings. So the scientists and people who care and who are really at the grassroots level are looking for solutions that help mitigate those conflicts. And here's a really, really cool recent innovation. But I'm going to let you guess which one it is. Is it green electric fences? Is it yellow motion sensors? Or is it red bee fences? It's bee fences. You know what's really cool? Elephants hate bees. I don't know if you knew that, but they hate bees. So what they've done is they've created bee fences. They basically put up poles and put up beehives, so the bees are around there and the elephants just don't cross because they don't want to be anywhere close to the bees. So they avoid the bees, and as a result, they reduce conflict, they protect the crops, and they protect the elephants. So it doesn't always have to be high tech. I threw the first two examples in because they were high tech, but you don't always need high tech. Now, one good news story for the elephant population is a place called the Addo Elephant National Park in South Africa. At one point in the early 20th century, the Addo elephant population was nearly wiped out with just 11 individuals remaining due to hunting and habitat loss. Today, focused conservation efforts, including the creation of safe corridors and water holes, have helped the population rebound to over 600 elephants as of 2024. So as of last year, 600 elephants. So this remarkable recovery, again, it stands as a powerful example of successful wildlife preservation. It's bad news, but we can do things about it. And smart people in every part of the world are doing really good things. So let's look at the final of the big five. It is the buffalo. Now, the African buffalo is also known as the Cape buffalo because of where it lives. Highly social animals. They live in herds that can range from a few dozen to over 1,000 animals. They can reach sizes of up to 2,000 individuals. For those of you who are photographers, it can create breathtaking spectacles during migration.